Hello there. Thank you for joining us and welcome to today's webinar on data-driven peak performance. I'm Stuart Russell, Chief Strategy Officer at Plink. And for those of you joining us for the first time, Plink delivers a range of technology and services solutions to help marketeers fully leverage all their customer data to make every decision and interaction better. Today's webinar has been put together off the back of witnessing many in our network getting amongst peak planning. And so really this is a checklist of sorts. We want to cover off three main areas to help brands put their thinking caps on when it comes to planning for peak. We want to talk through what you should be expecting from a data platform to drive great performance. Our belief is that brands' ability to differentiate themselves during this crucial trading period will come down to how they can access and use the customer data at their disposal. So we would like to spend a bit of time talking through what we think great foundations look like. We'll then talk about the use cases that they can unlock. And then we'll talk through how we believe that any capability gaps that you might have in your tech stack that are preventing you from delivering some of those use cases can be addressed in the short term, while also thinking about future-proofing the investment as well. So three areas. I'm going to jump straight into exploring what focus areas are for data foundations to drive peak. So we've got 7 considerations here that we think marketeers should be bearing in mind when it comes to putting together a fit-for-purpose customer data platform for peak and for beyond. And the first is really looking at making sure the data platform at your disposal has all the breadth without any compromise. So here we're saying that a fit-for-purpose data platform really does need to de-silo all the first-party data assets from around the business and centralize it for marketing activation. And we believe this should include behavioral data, transactional data, both on and offline. And in our view, a great continuous 360 customer view should be containing customer profiles, transactional data, or channel data, channel behavior information that you'd expect to gather from email engagement and so on, product reviews, customer service interactions, loyalty programs, but crucially, the digital data, website and app behavior that we think is critically important for this time of year. And indeed, it's one area, as we'll probably touch on in several occasions throughout this presentation, it's one area that brands still are really struggling to activate. So data breadth is absolutely critical, but so is the depth, making sure that the full customer history is stored and accessed. And when we think about peak, this is absolutely vital for identifying unique lifecycle and retention strategies, making sure that we're able to analyze the long-term impact of marketing efforts over the course of a period of time. And it's also absolutely crucial for making sure that machine learning and AI models can be fully trained on the full representation of your customer. And again, absolutely critical for some of the use cases that we'll be exploring. How that data is matched is also absolutely vital for success. And really, we're pushing the notion that data should be matched in a way that makes sense for your business. You know, every business is different. The sense of customer is unique. There are nuances, and that should be reflected in the way that data is brought together and matched to create that true cohesive view of the customer. And we know from our own experience and our own solutions that if a variety of match processes can be unlocked to make sure that the nuance of that customer is maintained, then we can see a 20-fold increase in data match rate. We know that we're able to achieve a match rate of 90% when it comes to looking at sales value to known customers. And then crucially within that, we need to maintain the ability to match anonymous user behavior to known customers, which will drive a number of the really major use cases over peak. We also would urge that any data platform is future-proofed and is future-proofed around both how a business is going to grow and the resource that is at your disposal to maintain that data asset. We think that data platforms should be built by ingesting data in the raw format from source, so that when we're de-siloing the data from all those different areas, it's brought together in one place with no transformation requirements. That absolutely limits the amount of internal IT and technical resources required to build up this type of data asset, which is super important, especially at peak when their attentions are often diverted elsewhere. And the data needs to be brought in a flexible data structure. You shouldn't be forcing your data into someone else's governance. It shouldn't be forced into someone else's structure. It should absolutely reflect what you want your business to look like when it comes to the customer. And again, that then massively decreases the amount of transformation that is required to bring data into a platform. And when it comes to bringing the data in, API first, but also offering multiple types of ingestion types. So not every data source will be able to be unlocked through APIs. So other processes need to be available, and they should all come together to create that cohesive solution. Once the data is brought together and we have the full breadth and the depth, and it's matched in a way that makes sense for your business, it needs to be accessible, right? That data platform needs to be used by both technical and non-technical marketeers to analyze and create audiences that make sense for the types of campaigns that you're running. Data should not be locked away. It should be there to be used by both data scientists in SQL environments, whatever it might be, but also for marketeers in really easy to use drag and drop environments. And then the data needs to be used. The data needs to be integrated everywhere, all at once. And so we're looking for out-of-the-box integrations across marketing channels and loyalty engines and e-com platforms, but also the ability to create bespoke integrations wherever needed. And finally, and crucially for peak, we need to look at the latency of the platform. We need a solution that gives marketers access to the latest data sets for audience creation and analysis, while also enabling real-time experiences. There should not be a compromise. Marketers should be able to deliver, with the data they have, the right types of experiences that customers expect across channels, but also marketers need to be able to analyze the latest data sets to make sure they're creating audiences based on the most recent activities. So 7 key areas to think about and focus on. And our belief is they unlock a number of really key use cases to drive peak performance. And the first is simply campaign targeting. At the busiest time of year for many brands, when there's a huge amount of noise and a huge amount of inbox clutter, it becomes increasingly hard for brands to cut through and to get offers and promotions seen by the customers that you want. And so targeting is absolutely essential, intelligent targeting, to give you the best chances possible to cut through. And it's also super important to make sure that the most relevant offers are being put in front of the customer and that your key promotions are taking center stage. Tools and solutions are obviously available for marketers to do this, but from our perspective, predictive category modeling is absolutely essential during the peak when there's a huge amount of pressure from trading teams to get campaigns out the door, while marketers are also trying to balance the degree of relevancy. Category affinity models, so the ability to predict the categories that each customer is most likely to engage with, are a super effective way to drive really efficient targeting. So selecting customers based on their likelihood to engage with categories. It's really important for solus communications, but equally can be used for personalization in the form of multi-category emails and simply being able to use the outputs from the model and the machine learning model to prioritize content within communications to make sure the right categories are being seen by customers straight away. And we know that that can drive an increase of up to 20% in the email response rates. That requires the data to be in a great place, to develop really effective category predictive models. We need to have transactional data and behavioral data all tied together in one place so that the machine learning solutions can effectively analyze and create the outputs. And it then needs to be integrated into the right outbound channels to make use of it. But even with all the amount of audience planning that a brand and a team is able to do, things change, very dynamic periods of trading. And so a key use case unlocked by fit-for-purpose data foundations is incredibly agile reporting. And reporting agility is a huge topic throughout the year, but it becomes absolutely essential during the dynamic period of peak. We know from our own experience and the solutions that we implement for our customers that being able to put reporting near to real-time reporting in the hands of marketeers during key trading periods like Black Friday is absolutely vital for making decisions in the moment in which categories and which trade areas to support and which customers to focus on. We have brands who leverage our reporting to make those decisions, and we can see the difference it makes in the activity over that period. And then we're talking about capturing and converting customer intent. So as many companies increase their marketing budgets to drive traffic to site during the peak period, it becomes even more important to make sure that any interest that is seen on the site is captured and reacted to, thereby keeping the cost of acquisitions low and ROI high. So having the ability to understand which visitors have an intent to convert and the potential value of that conversion will allow you to optimize your conversion strategies. And this is massively dependent on having digital web behavior fully unlocked and connected with the full customer set to drive those types of insights and decisions. By using the signals that we're able to capture with real-time web data collection, we're able to recognize the different types of customers and different types of visitors hitting your site. We're able to differentiate between those who are looking to be gifters, so perhaps by search terms that they're entering. We're able to differentiate those from existing customers. And it's incredibly important to be able to match in the moment web behavior data with full customer histories so that when we recognize a customer, we can see that well, their full interaction history is with the brand, how much they've spent, what their preferences are, and we're able to connect that with their in the moment context. Again, all coming down to being able to connect effectively and in real time digital data with customer history. That obviously enables the ability to send key pre and post purchase communications. So once we're able to identify intent and look to convert it, we're thinking about the abandoned basket and abandoned browse campaigns, and also the post purchase campaigns that can drive cross sell. Incredibly important communications that some brands are still struggling to send out in the timeframes that they would like to. And obviously, it's incredibly important to make sure that the messaging involved in those communications are delivered cross-channel. But what's also important, and also possible with a fully connected data set, is to make those comms work harder through personalization. And again, while we're seeing a number of brands struggle to send those types of campaigns that really should be bread and butter for marketers in today's day and age, we're seeing even more brands struggle to personalize them with product recommendations. There's often a disconnect between the recommendations that are available on site and the recommendations that are being delivered in email and the latency with which those recommendations are able to generate it. With the right type of infrastructure, it's fully possible, something we deliver for our clients. And even more importantly, important to be able to deliver different types of recommendations depending on the customer use case. So on the one hand, there's the ability to generate alternative product recommendations for customers who have abandoned browse or basket, the hypothesis being that they've abandoned that process because they're perhaps unsure about the product. So being able to offer similar products, whether it be in price matching or color or type, is a really useful tactic to help drive the conversion and really pushes on and elevates the abandonment communications. But likewise, they need to be balanced with complementary product recommendations for post-purchase campaigns. So where a customer has gone through and made a conversion, being able to quickly follow up with complementary items that go with the product that they have just purchased is a really effective way of driving repeat purchase during a very important window of opportunity post-sale. And then we have after peak. So while it's as much effort as it is to plan for peak activity, marketers clearly need to think about post-peak retention strategies, how to mitigate churn with the customers who we want to keep engaged, and how we can keep driving frequency long term. And at this point, it's important to have the measures in place to understand the different types of customers that are coming through. A customer isn't just for Christmas, is the saying, but there's a question as to whether or not that's true for all of those purchases during peak. Many customers will be coming through and buying just the once, and there might be very little that you can do in the following periods to change that. So being able to identify the different types of customers that you're acquiring over that period through their behaviors and transactions, massively important for how you plan strategies. With the right measures in place, using all the transactional and behavioral data at your disposal, it's obviously very possible to start thinking about segmentation strategies and developing onboarding and perhaps even database hygiene strategies by the type of customer, whether they're a new customer with all the signals of someone who will become a long-term loyal customer, being able to identify returning customers who you've acquired perhaps through a peak win-back program, and then those who are gift givers and might have a low likelihood of coming back. And something like a predictive future value model can be incredibly useful for driving this type of strategy forward. Predictive future value is something that a number of our clients use, again, using transactional and behavioral data to predict the future value of each customer that's coming through and plotting those customers on a value trajectory so that we can get a view of how valuable they are likely to be over a period of time. And with that type of insight and intelligence at your fingertips, it becomes much easier to target promotional spend and marketing activity, to think about what channel mixes you should be sending, depending on the potential upside. But it really hinges on unlocking the behavioral data and matching with the transactional data. The behavioral data is giving you all those really important signals as to how a customer might be performing over a period of time. And my belief is that implementing a solution like predictive future value that embraces behavioral data is incredibly important for driving long-term retention programs and making sure that we're really capitalizing on the spend that we put into the acquisition processes over peak. So very much a whistle-stop tour, a bit of a checklist on some of the use cases that we should be implementing to drive activity in the golden quarter. But I guess I just wanted to finish up by highlighting key challenges can be fixed use case by use case in time for peak. And I guess that comes back to Unilyze, our real-time customer data platform that's been designed to deliver a modular approach for marketeers. And guess what we're pushing here, or pushing the suggestion here, is that marketers don't need to just invest for peak. With the right solution, they can support both the short and long-term challenges. And that's as opposed to investing in, for example, short-term point solutions that might fix a particular pain point relatively quickly, but ultimately end up creating more silos and more cost points without necessarily fixing long-term considerations. And really, I have in mind here the web data piece, a number of point solutions that drive abandoned basket and abandonment campaigns. They're not necessarily creating the full digital asset that you would require for all the other use cases, and it sits elsewhere in the black box that you can't necessarily activate. However, point solutions certainly have their upsides when compared to investing in much larger platforms, which, like a full customer data platform, which will undoubtedly help with a number of the challenges that brands would have and want to get prepped for in time for peak, but just come with a high price tag and a long implementation timeframes and multiple stakeholders to sign off. It's very unlikely that that type of solution will be put in place. So I think Unilyze's modular approach offers brands a really interesting opportunity to get the best out of both worlds. The ability to start implementing use case by use case solutions that can ultimately be built up over time to create a future-proofed, fit-for-purpose data asset that really ticks all the boxes of those 7 key capability areas that we talked about previously. And if you'd be interested in seeing a demo of Unilyze, then please drop a note to, or visit the website, plink.com/demo, where you can register your details and we can show you a demo of the solution and how it can help with your peak challenges. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you found this brief session useful, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thank you.